It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue-focused late-night show in the country where we are on a mission. Our mission really is to empower. Our mission is to inspire. And our mission is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard-working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. On this episode, we have the one and only Tim Johnson. He's in the building. Here we're talking about how you can go from behind the chair to in front of the chair to really building and scaling your business. Isn't that amazing for all you entrepreneurs that are out there? What a conversation. Let me first say hello to the one and only Tim. How are you doing today, bro?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me. I'm doing phenomenal. I hope that you are.
Thank you for being on here, man. I appreciate it, man. And thank you to viewers. Thank you for watching. You have a lot of choices and you choose to be with us. So thank you so much. You know, we'll get into how famous you are. We'll get into your backstory. Some folks have already Googled you to figure out who you are. We'll get to that. But first, let's just address the elephant in the room, because there's a big, bold claim you have here, which is, well, I'll say this. A lot of people out there today are, they do feel stuck, right? And they're probably curious, like, what does it really mean to go from having a skill set to building a business? Talk about that for just a moment. What does that look like? What does that feel like?
Well, in the world of entrepreneurship, in regards to my career, it's the difference. It's three different phases. It's a certificate, being certified, and then being qualified, and then being bona fide. I look at all three of them from all of them are different. Certification is you decided you were going to go to school. You go, you do your hours, you do your certain amount of time that you're required to go according to the state, and then once you get that certification, and then you then are qualified to be able to work on live human beings, being able to work on their hair or their skin or their nails. But what causes an individual to be bona fide is they put in that time. They put that time in and under quality mentorship and development to be able to say that they have what it takes. You know how people say for you to be a master, you have to have at least 10,000 hours. But I'm a strong believer in mentorship and development and coaching. And, of course, the word of God said there's a multitude of safety and godly counsel. So that's where I get my take on it in regards to where individuals fit into this game of hair and how to play it. You know what I'm saying?
I love how you said that. We'll get to your backstory in a moment. But when he says behind the chair, there's some folks that stay behind the chair and they stay stuck for years and years and years. I guess the question I would have is, what keeps people stuck there? Is it the money? Is it they're afraid? Is it all of the above? But what keeps people stuck behind the chair and not really want to take that step forward and get in front of the chair?
A lack of exposure. A lack of exposure. And when I say a lack of exposure, if you come into any industry and all you see is front door access, if of course we know in coaching, we know what's called, Jay, I'm sure you're aware of this, the law of the lid. If you've seen no higher than what you've seen, you can fly no higher than you fly. So when you come in, if only thing you knew was getting a license and you thought that was going to get you in the door of doing hair, of course, that's all it's going to get you is in the industry of doing hair. You can go and work in a salon, but if you're not exposed to individuals that actually soar in this industry, that actually capitalize and they're making major moves and they're it's because there's so many different avenues, there's so many different ways that you could do you know this industry in your skill set. You got people who specialize in makeup, and people specialize in skincare, they specialize in nail care, or they specialize in hair, or they do consults, or they are image experts, or they may even decide that they want to be a platform artist, have you anything like that. So there's so many different ways, but you've got to have that type of exposure. But it's going to have the only way you're going to be able to get into those type of arenas in those rooms. I believe that there's got to be some kind of hunger for it at first. I'm a strong
Yeah.
believer in that.
But you also talk a lot about, and ladies and gentlemen, I know some of you don't know who the person is, and he's going to tell his story and who he is in a moment. Okay, we're going to get to that. But he talks a lot about clarity, talks a lot about confidence, talks a lot about purpose. And I'm curious if someone's hearing that, Shay, clarity, confidence, and purpose, like, all right, asked him, where should I start first? Like, which one comes first? I mean, it's a little overwhelming.
Hmm.
We don't know. So we like to get your view of the world. Clarity, confidence, and purpose. Where should someone start if they're listening right now?
Okay, if you're talking about any walk of life, clarity is preeminent. The word of God, we encourage that, by God and all that getting it understanding. And one of the main things is this is we want to make sure that we have clarity of purpose. Purpose is it's a big cliche that people use a whole lot. I need to discover my purpose so that I can make sure that I'm actually walking in the template of my life and what I'm put here to do. However, even before you are aware of your purpose is, there are still some underlying passions that guide your life, because you could be passionate about something that you totally do not understand. Why am I so passionate about cooking? Or why am I so passionate about fashion and color? Why am I so passionate about, looking at hairstyles, whatever the case is? But in order for you to be able to even attend to what God has purpose for you, you're gonna have to, I call it, do an internal test to find out, what am I passionate about? What drives me? What is it that I'm anticipating getting involved with? It constantly takes my attention there. And a lot of times I believe that what happens is um we attend so much to other people, and we become fans of people that we assume are happy. But a lot of times what it is, we are very attentive to people that are focused. I used to be a big fan of people that I assumed were happy, but I found out that they were really focused. I had a big challenge on becoming focused on what it was that I was passionate about. But I kept discounting my passions because I was comparing it to what other people were doing. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
I would see someone operating in, like, say for example, you doing your show. If I saw you doing your show, and I hear how many years you've done it, and then I look at the successes of what you've done, and then I look at how many shows you've done, I would become a fan of the fact that you were attentive enough to stay consistent and persistent with what you've done and what you've created. And there's be something internal inside of me that would be drawn to want to learn how, because I believe our biggest challenge is focus and consistency. So if you're not focused, then you don't know what to be consistent about. And then if you're not clear, you can't be. Me putting on these glasses, I wear them because it gives me clarity. I can see clearly. Okay. But if I have a challenge with having the wrong vision, I would be vision impaired. So I can't focus on what I'm trying to see clearly. Okay. So I believe that clarity is the ultimate, so that you can actually gain a quality of life that that you are looking to gain. That's why people run the rat race of work. When we say behind the chair, stuck behind the chair, they're doing the same thing, which becomes monotonous, and they're running on a gerbil wheel. And they do hair the same way. They don't challenge themselves, or they don't have anyone to challenge them. So, because they're not clear. Okay, I know I said a whole lot in a short amount of time, but that is exactly where I'm at. I've been that person before, and
Yeah, and it's a
typically I wind up coaching. Mhm.
and it's a perfect
Go ahead, sir.
segue.
I'm
Not to
sorry.
cut you off, but we can hear the passion
Mhm.
coming
You're
out.
fine.
We hear that you
Mhm.
believe this. It's a good segue to answering the question, because some folks, no matter how famous you are, they don't know who you are. They're
Mhm.
like, Shay, I'm in the kitchen cooking dinner right now. This is playing in the background. I hear the guy. I like what I'm hearing. I need some clarity. I need some confidence. I want to build a big business. Someone else might be listening in the AirPods right now. Maybe you're in the airport. Maybe you're in the gym. We appreciate you. Maybe we're on the big
Absolutely.
screen TV. What's up?
Mhm.
Hello. So we'll slow down for a moment and tell them, who are you? What's the backstory? You say, I've been doing this for a lot of years. This is what I've been doing. Tell them, who are you and what's the backstory that led you to what you're doing now?
Okay. Well, I'm Tim Johnson. First of all, I'm a master stylist. When I say a master stylist, I'm also an author, a speaker, and a coach. And I actually have been in the hair industry as a master stylist for over 37 years. I produce and I coordinate some of the largest shows in the country, from trade shows, fashion shows, expos. anything that has to do with image. My concept and my slogan is image is absolutely everything. And how I got into this industry, number one, I'm a single parent raised young man, raised by a corporate diva and by my mom, only child. And I've always been a showbiz kid. Anything that has to do with lights, camera, fashion, lights, camera, action, any of that, that has always been me. I've always been in love with the stage. And in regards to hair, how I got into the hair industry was when I was at East Carolina, my freshman and only year in college. I was a voice major, and as a voice major, I could sing perfect pitch and I sung opera. But I got accepted into the School of Music, but I absolutely knew nothing about music theory. I never had the basics. And anything that we do in life, there is always a concept that is called the core value, which is theory. So I didn't know anything about music theory. And my music professor told me, Dr. DeStefano, he said, Timothy, you're going to fail drastically in the School of Music if you don't know music theory. So automatically, I flatlined immediately. I mean, so I just kind of gave up because I was trying to, how do I crash course music theory? You know, here I am, 18 years old. And I couldn't catch up because most of those kids had taken piano and all of that, and they were either in band and elementary and middle school and high school, so they already had basic music theory. I could sing, but that talent would not make it in the School of Music. So one of my buddies, during my spare time, in other words, during the time that I wasn't going to class, one of my buddies asked me to cut his hair, and when he asked me to cut his hair, I knew nothing about cutting hair. But he said, Tim, I have a pair of clippers. My mom won't send me any money. And she said, in order for me to get my hair cut, that either I was gonna have to cut it myself or get someone to cut my hair. So what he did, he begged me to do it. I told him, I said, God, listen, I've never cut anybody's hair. However, because of the fact he begged me, I was bored. I did it. So when I say I did it, I did it. Yeah, I jacked him up, of course, because I knew nothing about cutting hair. So he wore a baseball cap for a couple of weeks, but then he came back in desperation and he said, hey, look, man, I think you're gonna get better. He said, I just need to get another haircut. Just don't do this or don't do that. Now, in the meanwhile, I had already visited the barbershop because I was in the barber chair every week. So I became a distant student. By observation, I would watch the barbers while I was in the chair because I had already touched his hair. And I was like, what is it that I didn't do that they did? And what I noticed, Jay, is the fact that as I observed, I could capture seeing someone do something and I could repeat and replay when I got by myself. So when he asked me to do it again, I told him, I said, either you're dumb, you're stupid, or you just love misery. And I cut his hair and I got better. And he kept coming. And then next thing you know, my buddies were asking me to cut their hair, and I was cutting the basketball team, the baseball team. People were coming by my room, and I was from Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm a country boy. My roommate was from Bunn, North Carolina. He's a country boy, and we both could cook. And I don't know if you saw the movie Drumline. We had a line out of our door. People would come. I would bake homemade biscuits in my room, cook fried pork chops, fried fish, fried chicken. We would cut up sweet potatoes and make candy yams with cinnamon, nutmeg, and sugar. We would fry candy yams on top of the hot plates and stuff. So I was selling plates and selling haircuts for $5, and you know that was my room. I knew nothing about entrepreneurship. All I knew is that I had a winning strategy. When I woke up, I could make money. So, long story short, my GPA suffered really bad. I was put on academic probation. My GPA was a 0.83, and when my GPA was a 0.83, you all you have to do is sign your name. You can get a 0.83. You know what I'm saying? So, Che, how was I going to tell this corporate giant, my mom from I worked at IBM, who cut a check to pay for my college tuition every semester? How was I going to tell her that I was put on academic probation because I was failing drastically at college? What was my strategy? I was going to try to convince her that I wanted to go to barber school instead of going to college. And the waiting list was a year and a half long, and the next school was about a hour 20 minutes away. I couldn't get in. So there was this guy that I used to cut his hair on the weekend, and I'm not gonna prologue the story, but he did hair. He was 19. I was 18. He was my eighth grade bully. He showed me the money from doing hair, and he said, you ought to go to cosmetology school. I didn't want to do women's hair, and he said, why not? I said, I don't want to be, I'm gonna just tell you the truth, Shay. I said, I don't want the negative stigma that people talk about men doing hair, and I really had no interest in doing women's hair. And he said, listen, he said, hairstylists make money. You already, barbers, so you got rid of the fear of touching someone's hair. And I said, but hairstyles don't wait to make that much money. He showed me $75,000 cash at 19 years old. And when he showed me the money, it quickly changed my whole mindset. I said, "Where do I sign up?" Because he had been saving money since he was 14. I immediately got signed up in the cosmetology school. I had to convince my mother that that was something I really wanted to do. So the only reason why I became as successful as I did, Chad, I must say, it was the fear of failing because I could not have my mother paying for another tuition and with this vocation and make her lose her money. So I immediately had to become good so that I could prove to her that this is something that I was really passionate about doing.
Wow,
And
powerful
that's how I got
story.
into it.
Very powerful story. And as you talk about the story and the setbacks and challenges you had, so open, so authentic, it led me to wonder today, if we fast forward just a few years, you've been on big stages, you've been around
Yeah.
big brands. You talk about the lesson you've learned from your eighth grade bully. Take a moment, if you would, and if you could fast forward and say, Shay, being around big stages and big brands, here's one, two, or three things that I picked up. This helps me be able to build a business that may help the audience. I know it's kind of an unfair question, but maybe you pick one, but something you've learned just being around big brands and big stages that's really helped elevate your business as well.
Well, the thing about it is this: see the big in you. That's one of the main things that I would say. See the
That's
big in
good.
you. I saw big in everyone, but I was ignoring or I could not pay attention to the big within myself. And then I began to bet on me. Okay. I was actually, guys, you have no clue how intense this was. When I tell you that 19-year-old, 18-year-old going into 19-year-old story was very intense for me because I was going through a major crisis during that time with identity. I didn't know who I was, what I was going to be. I was afraid of failure. And a lot of you are right there in that place right now. And whenever I had to bet on me, I had to go in and convince myself, number one, that this is something that I could do. And then I had to sell to myself and convince myself that this is something I really wanted to do because I was not going to go through failure anymore. I had already had the news that I had failed drastically at college. I felt like a loser. I felt like I was a disappointment to my family. And I had to make that conscious decision to do that. Show business, the stage, I had no fear of stage. And then I went to my very first hair show and when I saw it, the show was so huge. It was the Bronner Brothers show in Atlanta, Georgia, which was well over 100,000 people from all over the globe. In August, in the first weekend in August, and in February, it was well over 70,000 plus people from all over the world. I had never seen anything like that in my life, but I saw stages and theaters and hairstyles being done on stage, and I knew that I was in my atmosphere. I knew that I was in mutant territory. When I say mutant territory, if you ever watch X-Men and they would go to the castle, I can't think of the gentleman's name who he was Mr. I don't know his name, but he rode around in the in the you know what I'm
Oh, I can't
talking
think of his
about. He
name
rode
either.
around in
Excuse me.
Doctor Who or whatever. Well, I
Uh-huh.
can't think his name, but you know what I'm talking about. But all of the mutants were there. They were misfits, and honestly, that hair show was exactly that to me. And I wound up being the spokesperson for that whole global show. I wound up on the stage as their premier spokesperson. Not only that, I was a a technical director. I trained platform artists. I hosted their auditions. I booked fashion designers. I worked with the Glam Squad. I then went to, but I had to see the big in me. But I had to I had to partner with God by faith and accept what He was actually you know, revealing to me. I had to get a revelation of what I possessed and get out of the fan club of everyone else. And I started betting on me. And that's when I started tapping into, happiness. Of course I looked like a football player, but I was not I made it perfectly clear that if I don't like it, I'm not going after it. You know what I'm saying? If I'm not happy with it, I'm not doing that. So everything that I've imagined to do from a hair product line to being an author of a book to being on stages over 25,000 plus people, from being a recognized name in the industry, and I mean, honestly, to God, this is all because God gave me the courage and the boldness to stand up for my life and to be courageous enough to go after my life. And
Mm.
I am a creative, and I take up for my creatives. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
And you do
that's your boy,
amazing
Chad.
job. You do amazing job as a creative, and I just want to interject if I
You're
can,
so
because you
kind.
talked about
You're
being a
so
creator,
kind.
you talk about what you're doing, you shared the backstory. Many people struggle. I'll say this with seeing themselves as a brand. And one of the things you do well,
Mhm.
help people build a business and generate money, is understand they can see themselves as a brand. What's the first step? Because we have a lot of entrepreneurs who are watching right now. Many are dualpreneurs. They work a 9 to 5 job and they're a full time entrepreneur. Figure that out, by the way. They're like, man, how
Mhm.
does one? What's the first step I should take so I can start seeing myself and building a brand? And and
Mhm.
I don't put you on the spot. I know it's a 2 part question. The other part was
Put me on the spot,
what.
Chad. I love the
Okay,
spot. It's
so
fine.
first define what is a brand. Some people think that if they got a logo, that's all they need. They're off and running. So talk about what is a brand, and then how that's so important for their business.
One of the first things is this: a brand is you. Before you go over into logos, you are the brand. If you're creating it, if it's coming out of you, you are the brand, the creative. One of the first things that I did, Chad, is I began to say my name. I began to say my name. Even in the sixth and seventh grade, when we would sign our yearbooks, I would sign the yearbook, and and a young lady, she sent me on Facebook Messenger about 4 months ago. She sent me a copy of a seventh grade yearbook where I signed her yearbook when I was in the seventh grade, and it said, "Keep this signature because one day this name is going to be famous." That signature is my branded logo for my business, which is my Tim Johnson. And you have got to realize that you are the brand, number one. Say your name. I don't care if you're creating McDonald's. What is your name? What is or create the name of the business and say it courageously and say it until it resonates in your spirit, until it is birthed in the atmosphere that you're saying that this is going to be what globally. This is going to be globally known, or this is going to be nationally recognized, or this is going to resonate and ring out in my industry, whatever it is. But branding is number one, selling it to yourself, saying it to yourself until it is manifested and write it out. And then I would say put true artwork to it. And then you got to come up with your mission, and you got to make sure that your standard of operation, what is your standard that you're standing behind? We're known for what? Okay. What am I known for? What am I going to be, recognized as, and like I am with my coaching business. I coach high performing, influential leaders, and I help them tap into their God-given gifts, and I help them monetize it. That is my brand. In regards to hair, hey, I help you discover your image, and I cast you into your forecast of where you belong so that you won't continue to exist on where you've been. That is one of the biggest challenges that most people have, is they think that they are supposed to exist for the rest of their lives the way that they have always seen themselves. So the most interesting part of what I do is I help you to discover who you're becoming. Okay? So that is what I possess. So branding is all about who are you becoming.
I love that. I love that. Perfect definition. And you know, what does success look like for you these days? What does it feel like? Because I never heard you say it's all about the money. Maybe when you was in college, you said, I've got a chance to make some money. But throughout this whole conversation, you haven't really talked about the money. You talked about serving and helping other folks. So, what does success look like and feel like for you these days?
Success to me, man. I stand strong on the scripture that after you've been converted, strengthen your brother. I've seen a lot of money, Chad. It's not Chad, Che. I'm sorry, Che. I've seen a lot of money. Money does move me, but money doesn't make me. Okay. Um, I'm not new to money. I know how to create wealth. I know how to create wealth. My most important thing is I am all about helping others convert and see the change and see that's success for me. If I can help you to experience uh, seeing that person or becoming that brand or that business or becoming that version of yourself that you have never recognized before, I want to help you tap into that. Okay, that's why I wrote my book. I wrote my book. It's called If Hair Could Talk, and if hair could talk, and it's actually everything that happens when I stand behind my chair and people come into my atmosphere. When they
Mm-hmm.
come into my atmosphere, it's more than what kind of style are we doing today? What are we doing today? One of the first things that I do is I rest my hands on the individual's shoulders and I look at them in the mirror. And when I look at them in the mirror, I see them seeing me seeing them. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I see them seeing me seeing them. And I'll notice a lot of times, Chad, a lot of times people, and it doesn't just have to be women, but a lot of people cannot see themselves. Okay, they don't see themselves, and they've taught themselves that they're not important or that they don't matter, so by the time it comes down to hair, they've ignored their hair, or they've ignored their image, or and they're not even aware of who they are, who they've become. All And a lot of individuals are stuck where they had their last trauma. Okay. And so that's where I'm at right now. This is it's ministry for me. I operate in my gifts. People become activated. I've had a lot of testimonies where people feel like their lives have actually been activated sitting in my chair. I have a lot of testimonies where people who have read my book, they say that their lives and their gifts have been activated. I've had sergeants and retired captains from Marines and people in leadership positions who have read my book, and they read it because it was actually a coffee table or a countertop attraction just because of the title and the art. And their wives were going to read it, and they saw it and they picked it up and they were like, "What is this? Is hair talking?" You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? So it's been all of that. It's been all of that, man. So to answer
Wow.
your question is, um, I love helping people. That's really where it's at right now. And I know that it's not over because God is revealing to me a different version of myself right now, and I'm very anxious and anticipating, you know, by partnership with Him about what He's saying to me about what's next for me. And I'm also in a position where I'm trying to recognize and discern what is now. What is He saying for me for now? Because when I think about it, I can create it. I got if you don't mind me showing, I got these in my book. This is my paperback book. This is my hardback book. I got my product line. I got like 12 products in my hair product line. These are things that I thought about. But what I've done is hey, I put the grid down, man, and I bet on me, and I produce it. I've done it for other people, so I have to do it for myself.
I love it. I love it, man. As we as we come down the home stretch, you share so much. I'm curious, what do you do for fun when you're not out saving the world, help people build brands and make money and be on stages? What does fun look like and feel like for you now?
You know what's so bananas about you, Chad? Chad, I keep calling you Chad. Chad,
That's fine.
is I have a functional health therapist, and my functional health therapist just asked me that same question. You must got one too, because you asked the right question.
I
She
got a
asked
therapist,
me,
yes.
she asked me just the other day. She said, "Tim, what are you doing for fun?" And I stood still, just like I just stood still with you, and I was like, because everything that I've done for fun has turned into work, you know. And she told me, Che, she said, I know it's a very vulnerable position for you because you think that work is just play, but you've got to separate the two. So what I do now, um, I travel for free. I fly free. So I'll go have lunch with a friend of mine in LA. You know, I'll go and, you know, hey, go fishing with a buddy in Scottsdale, Arizona or something, Um, I'll go and just go do something totally different. Right now, next month, I'm going to Guyana. I have a buddy of mine who he's Guyanese, and he has property in Guyana. He's been inviting me. I'm gonna go spend 4 days there just to see Guyana and see his culture. And I also have another buddy who has some property in Costa Rica. So he's been trying to go get me to come and see what he's built there. So I have some great relationships. So what I'm doing for fun is I'm accepting invitations. I mean, That's what I do for fun because for a while I would always be so busy that I couldn't do it. So Che, if you invite me to go do something for fun, hey, I'll go fishing with you in Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? So I
I
have no
love it.
problem with it, you know.
I love the
So that's my
energy. I love
answer.
the
That's
energy.
yeah.
Final question, two-part question. Number one, what type of clients is your firm looking to work with these days, if any? I'm not sure if you're taking on clients. And number two, where should folks go to follow you? Where should they go to stay in the conversation? Where should they go to get the book if they're interested in connecting with you?
Well, let's do the first things first. Follow me on all platforms but Tim Johnson International. You know, since that was your last question, but it's fresh on my mind. But Instagram is Tim Johnson International. TikTok is Tim Johnson International. And my website is timjohnsoninternational.com. My product line is Tim Johnson dot systems, timjohnsonsystems.com. That's the product line right now. And the type of clients, my ideal client profile, my ideal client is typically high performing influential leaders that are actually they're getting every kind of sign that things are changing and they need to attend to it. Okay, they need to pay attention to it. I'm looking for I look for people that are looking for themselves. Okay, those are the type of people that I do best with. uh that money is, it's not about money. They're not strangers to money. You know, I've lost over 100 pounds in the last 5 years. No pills, no surgery, no shots. I am a heart attack
Congratulations.
survivor as well. Huh?
Congratulations. I said
Yeah.
congratulations. That's good. One. So congratulations. Tell us more.
Yeah. I mean, hey, look, I believe when you get the second win, man, you got to make sure that you help blow the wind. And so, yeah, yeah. And I am a coach by the purest part of the core of it. Uh, I'm a strong believer in accountability, taking accountability, and we don't force change, we invite it. Okay. And yeah, that's the type of clientele I'm looking for. But I am a certified life coach. But most importantly, I'm not one of those coaches that's going to do the work for you. Okay, so if you're looking for change, I do believe that accountability and um, a perfect fit is very necessary. Okay, I believe it's extremely, and I'm sure you have that same standard as well. So those are the type of people I'm looking for. In regards to hair, I only work 3 days out of the week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I'm actually spending quality time right now. My 21-year-old daughter is a licensed cosmetologist, cosmetologist, so I'm pouring into her right now, and so I'm really helping develop her right now and pouring into her everything that she needs for the business. So
You answered the
I hope that
question.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
congratulations. Let me say thank you so much for being on the
Thank you,
Happy
Pastor.
Entrepreneur Show, man. You're doing a lot. You're changing lives. You're making a difference, and you're enjoying it and having a good time. So thank you so much. Can't wait to have you back on the
Absolutely.
show again soon.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me.
And thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in because without you, well, we don't have a show. So I never get tired of reminding you every night, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life, whether you're doing really, really well and there's that next level of success or you've been hit with the punch that you never saw coming. The one thing I do believe is you got a fresh start. You get a chance to do it over. You are the brand. Get going. With that being said, make it a great day, everyone. We'll make some good things how we connect again next time. God bless and keep doing God's work. Peace. We out of here.